Hello and welcome to the Time on Screen podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the managing editor at Worn and Wound. This is maybe my favorite episode of Time on Screen that we do each year. It's our Oscar preview episode. I'm really happy to be joined by Kyle Snarr, head of partnerships at Worn and Wound. Kyle, how's it going?
Hey, I am happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I look forward to this episode, whether I'm on it or not. I look forward to listening to it every year, and then, just been like trying to brush up on as many contenders as I can.
It all comes down to this. We're recording this about a week or so before the Academy Awards. Voting has closed. This podcast will be airing in the days before the Academy Awards. So
you got your votes in, Zach?
Say again, Kyle.
You got your votes in?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I stuffed the ballot box with all my favorites. So,
nice.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the race. As we see it, we'll predict the major categories and also tell you who we think should win in those categories, because often, of course, those things tend not to line up. And maybe we'll also throw in some personal favorites as well, movies that didn't quite make the cut, but that we would have liked to have seen get more recognition. Before we do all that, this is a Worn and Wound podcast, so we will do a wrist check. What are you wearing today, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm happy to be wearing today my Pollen X Oh No collab watch. I know you might have one of these in your collection.
I happen to be wearing right now as this is not coordinated.
Serious?
Yeah, no, I just happened to reach for that this morning. So
that's awesome and amazing.
In sync. Well, let's see if we're as in sync on all of these awards
Seriously.
that we have to discuss. This is a cool watch,
I love this. I love this watch. I got the smaller quartz version that has the pink dial with the red numerals, crafted by hand by the team at Ono Typography, and has the blue second hand ticking away as it is that quartz movement. I like this watch a lot. I have it on a Forstner ladder bracelet, which I think is a really great combo, and gives me a chance to kind of check out the exhibition case back on my only quartz watch with an exhibition case back.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got the I've got the same watch. Except mine's the 38 millimeter version with the automatic movement. I believe it's a Le Pure movement, but just a really fun dial. I love the case shape too. Just it wears so well. Very comfortable. I haven't taken it off the OEM strap. It's just a really nice suede strap that I think matches the kind of character of the watch pretty nicely, but it looks great on that Forstner bracelet.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. That's a fun coincidence.
Was not planned. This is what happens sometimes in our little company here. You just end up wearing the same watch as
basically.
Yeah, it happens.
They launched this watch at Wind Up San Francisco last year, and I was honored to be the moderator of the panel that launched it. So I have a special connection to the launch of this watch, and makes me look forward to all the Wind Ups this year, including Dallas, which is right around the corner.
Dallas right around the corner. San Francisco very quickly approaching after that. Yeah. It'll be a fun year of Wind Ups for sure. Okay, the Academy Awards. Kyle, I know you're just from chatting with you. Obviously, you're a big movie fan. You've been on Time on Screen many times. Over these last couple of years we've been doing the pod. We talk about movies a lot. Yep. I don't think a week goes by where you don't send me a Slack message saying, "Have you seen this?" or "Have you seen this?" And I did the same. Tell me a little bit about what your overall take is on the movie year that's now kind of in the rear view and the Oscar race. Kind of as you see it. This has been I think, kind of an unusually exciting Oscar season. It seems like there's a lot of kind of balls in the air that haven't been in the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's a hard one to predict. I think this time last year, you were about to see Dune 2, and there was a lot of amazing buzz around that movie. And I think everyone, after seeing Dune 1, was just like, okay, so obviously it was a masterpiece, and people were like, okay, it's not going to win this year because there's a second one coming out. They'll do the Lord of the Ring things, and I'm sure just save the Oscar for that. And even seeing it in the theater, I was like, this, I really like this movie, and I think people are going to love it. And I think it might just be the thing that just sweeps. That was a year ago. And now look at where we are, where it's kind of barely in the conversation, which is just a strange phenomenon given the buzz when it came out.
Yeah, it got a courtesy nomination basically for Best Picture and was virtually ignored in most other categories, including director, which I would have thought would be, when I saw Dune 2 like this time last year, I would have thought, well, that's a lock. Like,
Yep,
that's
exactly.
even if they kind of like save the Academy Award wins for like a third movie or whatever, to your point, um, you would have I would have expected Dune to be a heavier a bigger player in the Oscar race.
Yeah.
I would not have expected if you had told me, even during like festival season, I couldn't have predicted Amelia Perez being kind of like the early Oscars like juggernaut with, I think it had
Correct.
11 nominations in total. This is a movie that I don't think we've actually talked about this movie. Kyle, I don't know. Have you seen Amelia Perez?
I have. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have too. I don't think it's a bad movie. There's a lot of people kind of like on the internet saying like this movie's like straight up bad and like, not deserving of being, nominated. It's very strange that it got nominated for so many Academy Awards. I think it's like a solid like 3-star movie. It had like a lot of steam heading into Oscar season, and it seems to have like all dried up real quickly because of some like Oscars politicking and also like a genuine kind of controversy with a member of the cast.
Right. Yeah, we saw the movie. I think my wife and I we watched it and we were just like, it felt like a festival movie. It felt like,
Yeah.
Going to a festival, you see movies that you wouldn't see otherwise, right? You see movies that are kind of off the beaten track a little bit and have like unique storytelling mechanisms. And this movie kind of falls into all those categories. And so it felt like a festival film, and it was like, if I was going to Sundance or wherever and saw that, it'd be like, kind of like, oh, that was like an interesting part of my festival experience. That's what it felt like to me. But I do feel pretty strongly that there are much stronger movies than that movie.
Yes.
That are in the race, and some that didn't get the nom for Best Picture that certainly are better films than that.
Yes, I think so too. And we can talk about that when we get to the Best Picture category.
Yeah.
The Amelia Perez thing I just find to be like truly one of the most confounding Oscar stories like of the recent past. It's I think it speaks to the like the international nature of the Academy. Obviously, the Academy is much larger now than it was even a few years ago. They've added many international members in an effort to frankly get movies like Amelia Perez nominated.
Yeah,
but I think that we can both probably point to other international productions that we like more than Amelia Perez, or that might be more
for sure.
So, very strange phenomenon, and also the Amelia Perez and The Brutalist, which is another heavily nominated film, another film that was very heavily discussed during the festival season and the lead up to the Academy Awards, both kind of like taking part in some old fashioned like Oscars like politicking and maybe some like underhandedness in the campaign, kind of like brings you back to the 90s, like maybe not in a great way, but like it's just very out there on the surface this year. These movies are like really competing with each other.
I don't know why it's become the headlines, but it definitely has captivated kind of the movie going crowds. Is like, what exactly is going on here?
Yeah, stories being planted in the trades, and it's
mudslinging, and
it's a fight. It's pretty brutal. So you saw The Brutalist recently, you told me, and I told you not to tell me your thoughts on it until we got to the podcast. Do you want to just like I'm kind of dying to know like your your thoughts on this movie. You want to share them now?
Yeah, absolutely. So literally finished the second part last night. So this movie's long, as you know, and we've been waiting to kind of just get it in our house rather than trying to find a 4-hour window or so to go to the movies. It just was not happening for us this season. So it came out for purchase on Tuesday, for video on demand purchase. And we bought it. And we watched the first half on Wednesday night and second half on Thursday night, right at the intermission point. And we're recording this on Friday morning. So here I am. It's fresh in my mind. Okay, so here's my hot take on The Brutalist. So first things first, it is like right there in terms of it for me, it was just so close to being a masterpiece and not getting over the line of masterpiece level. From a technical point of view, from cinematography, from production design, music, from even acting, like I think it like hits 9 and 10s out of 10 for almost all those categories. The thing where it's that suffered for me is like I was expecting and craving an emotional, cathartic ending to this thing that made it worth all the time I invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
That never got there for me. It just didn't. I wanted it bad. I wanted it bad. And I think that's kind of the point of the movie, is that it's not pretty and that life isn't going to give you everything you want.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the point, but that doesn't mean that makes it for an enjoyable movie going experience.
Yeah, I mean the ending is straight up sarcastic. Like it's a trick, and I think like that's definitely
Spoiler
the point
alert, but
of
yes.
we won't spoil the specifics, but like the ending is, I'll say it's like a dramatic shift in tone. There's multiple shifts in tone in this movie.
Correct.
And like the ending is like probably the most dramatically kind of like obvious, like, you know, shift, you know, without giving too much away. And yeah, I mean my thoughts are pretty similar to yours. I really kind of like went through all the like Stations of the Cross on this movie. Like I came out of seeing it in 70 millimeter in a really nice theater the first time I saw it, thinking like, well, that was like quite a thing. And I think I got caught up in like the 70 millimeter of it all. It's very impressive. Like when you like are seeing it in a theater, like the craft of this movie is like quite impressive.
Best but the more opening credits ever.
Really great. Oh, great opening. Really great score. You know, we're not going to talk about the score category specifically, but like Give It to the Brutalist. It's a fantastic score. But yeah, the more I thought about it, and especially after seeing it a second time in the theater, the more I thought like this is just like real shaggy, and the script like doesn't really hold together, and some of the ideas in the movie just don't make a ton of sense to me. And I don't want to spoil things. Maybe we'll do a dedicated an entire episode to The Brutalist once more people have had a chance to
There's great watches in it. I think I spotted a pull router.
Possibly. I honestly didn't clock any of the watches, pardon the pun, but it's yeah, I really think it's very ambitious. I always like a big swing. And I like you, I just don't think it quite gets over the finish line. I will say I like the ending. Like I think the ending, like for me, like it doesn't need to have like an emotional cathartic payoff. I thought like the ending was clever, and I appreciated that about it. Really, my problems are with like the second half of the movie. Like
agreed. Completely. The first half, you're like, this is amazing setup. And the payoff was not there. And the thing is that the payoff actually was there, but not in the way they told it. That's the saddest thing about it, is the payoff of that film is literally built into the building. But they don't. They explain that with basically a person speaking to the camera versus a reveal that could have just been like mind blowing, and that kind of pissed me off, frankly.
Yeah. We should stop talking about it because we're treading dangerously close to spoiler territory on The Brutalist. But I think I think listeners probably have a good idea of like what we're, you know, our thoughts on the movie itself. I'm like I really went from being like quite impressed and thinking like, oh, this is probably like a, you know, movie in the top 10 for me for the, you know, for 2024 to being like quite a, like several levels down, like on this on this movie after like really thinking about it and wrestling with it.
I was processing it late into the night out loud to my wife, and she's like, you got to stop. And I'm like,
I'd be curious to know, I mean, maybe we can address this, like I said, in a future time on screen, but I would be curious to know like what you think of it like a week from now or a month from now, because you will continue to think about it, and maybe that's no doubt the sign of like a movie that's successful in some way, that you like continue to kind of like grapple with. But as for me, as I continued to think about it, you know, it worked less well for me as I continued to think about it. But it's an accomplishment either way, because it's this is a 3.5 hour period piece about an architect that played pretty widely in this country, and it really dominated like the movie discussion for quite some time, and that's, I think, an accomplishment in and of itself, in this day
the
and age.
net is neither of us sound like brutalist boys.
I would not put myself in that category. No, I'm not a brutal boy at this time, for sure. All right. Should we talk about some of these categories?
Let's do it
and dive in. Let's start with the screenplay categories. What we'll do, Kyle, is we'll kind of we'll name the nominees, and we'll talk about our straight up predictions, who we think should win, and then who we would like to win. Let's start with original screenplay, because I think it's linked directly to the movie we were just discussing. This nominees for original screenplay are Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5th, and The Substance. Who do you think is going to win original screenplay this year?
Again, I've only seen a handful of these. I've seen 3 of these 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like, based on conversation out there, I think The Brutalist is probably leading the pack of these. So that's who I think probably, if you're trying to win the ballot, put the check mark next to The Brutalist from my point of view. What do you think?
I think it's really close between Anora and The Brutalist. I have The Brutalist here, but honestly, I think it's kind of a coin flip between the two, based on sort of what I'm reading about the state of the race and just a gut feeling that I have. It seems to me like Anora is starting to kind of cement itself as a front runner across the board in some of the categories we'll get to later. And that could mean that it just kind of it takes screenplay too, or it could mean that voters try to reward The Brutalist where they're not rewarding it in some of those higher tier categories.
Yeah.
So I've got The Brutalist here as my as the movie that I think will win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Baker wins for Anora. The movie that I would like to see win of those nominated is A Real Pain. Did you have a chance to see A Real Pain?
Did.
Yeah.
Loved it. Easily one of my favorite films of the year. I mean, talk about an emotional payoff and a cathartic sort of opportunity to just
dealing with similar subject matter as The Brutalist too. They're in conversation in certain ways, for sure.
Yeah. I loved it. I think I recommend it to everyone to check out for sure. And I'll just say real quick that September 5 was great. Also, this might be our only chance to really talk about it, but what a cool movie that happens essentially in a single room. And it's just the way that they're using existing footage mixed with just really, really convincing portrayals of an analog era of television production is awesome.
Yeah, I saw September 5th or September 5. I don't know how do we stylize
September
it?
5.
September 5. Okay,
5. It's the cool way.
I saw it a few nights ago. I was very impressed. It's really it in a lot of ways kind of feels like a throwback movie to
exactly
movies that we saw in the 90s and the early 2000s when you just had a really
solid
good
drama,
solid kind of it's very, very well done. In another year, with the right campaign, this movie could have been nominated for many more awards, I think.
Agreed.
But yeah, just kind of
it's crazy timing. How many movies this year, and I think it's a good thing, are really, really dealing with Holocaust either directly or tangentially, but 3 of these films are all really dealing with the Holocaust in some way, shape, or form, which I think is an important thing to mention.
Yep. For sure. And I think, I really want to, there's so much to talk about especially with respect to The Brutalist and how it deals with the Holocaust. But I don't want to, not the time or place, but suffice it to say, I think A Real Pain does a better job, I think.
Of for sure.
Kind of
hands
focusing.
down.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's not in the top, the top group of nominees.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. I think the strength of the movie is in the screenplay, and so it makes sense that it's nominated there. I would be thrilled if it won. I don't think it's really in the running, but that would be my pick
Cool.
for sure. Let's go to adapted screenplay. Adapted screenplay, we've got A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Amelia Perez, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. I've got Conclave winning this one. I think it's sort of been the odds-on favorite for quite some time. It won the top prize at BAFTA about a week ago, and the screenplay prize there as well. I believe it seems pretty well positioned to win. What do you have a prediction in this category?
I think you're right. I'm going to go ahead and double down on Conclave with you, and we can talk more about Conclave, I think, in some of these future categories. But I've got a hot take on that particular movie. I do want to just, and we'll talk about it again, but like Sing Sing for me was just a mind-meltingly good movie this year, and I don't think it's getting enough praise. It is awesome, and that movie was really cool because it is very cinema verite. So it's interesting that it's even in for screenplay, because so much of the movie is like just real people like speaking and kind of ad-libbing and focusing on people playing themselves, which it's crazy that it got a screenplay nod, but that's cool.
Yeah. Sing Sing's a blind spot for me. I still have not had a chance to see it. I'm very much looking forward to sitting down with it when I get a chance. And Nickel Boys is another blind spot for me. I know you're a fan of that movie too.
That one. I mean, Nickel Boys and Sing Sing are in conversation with each other very much, actually. Of the two, like Sing Sing is like pretty it's like for theater kids. It's awesome, you know. And I know that you're a big fan of Station 11, and there's some odd Station 11 vibes in there that you're gonna like really appreciate.
Okay, I haven't heard that comparison yet, but that makes me excited to see it for sure. The movie that's nominated in here for adapted screenplay that I'm kind of surprised about, that I liked quite a bit, is A Complete Unknown. I would not have pegged this movie to be nominated for screenplay because it's really basically just a long music video, and I really enjoy it, and I'm a big fan of this movie, but it's not something that I would think I'd recognize for
more performance.
Yeah, like the performances are good. It has like a really like cool energy to it, but it's not like the most. It doesn't have like a ton of depth, like in the like in the screenplay itself. But a movie that I'm quite fond of. I think I'd probably be like, if I had to pick from these a movie that I think should win, I'd probably be comfortable with Conclave. Like I really did enjoy Conclave. It's a very smart script. So I'd be totally fine with Conclave winning adapted screenplay. Let's go to the let's start in the acting categories. Actor in a supporting role. I think this is maybe the most kind of like locked in category that we're going to talk about, with like a very clear favorite. But the nominees are Yura I always pronounce this wrong. Yura Borisov for Honora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. What's your take on actor in a supporting role this year, Kyle?
You know, I when you said it's on lock, I was curious because I've heard kind of two people being tossed around pretty heavily, Kieran Culkin and Guy Pearce, both being kind of like called out as potential winners. I would want it personally to go to Kieran Culkin. I think he's got the energy and the kind of momentum right now, but I think Guy Pearce is getting a lot of shout outs right now.
I think that it's I mean, Kieran Culkin's been the front runner for like really since this movie like premiered. He's been sort of like pegged as the favorite. I think like Guy Pearce, I think if it's tricky. I feel like the momentum is kind of slagging a little bit for The Brutalist, as we, we're now voting's closed, for the awards, but it seems like it was just sort of like it maybe like peaked a little bit too early. I think that Kieran Culkin's won all the important, like precursor awards, and just seems to be kind of like on a, ready to like steamroll into a win here. I liked him a lot in A Real Pain. I think he kind of like maybe like plays himself, or plays like the same type of character in like every movie. I watched I watched Igby Goes Down for the first time in several years, maybe like, I don't know, a month or so ago, which is a movie he stars in, at a much younger age, and it's like really striking to see him kind of like playing like another version of this guy, in that movie, which he also does, of course, in Succession and other.
There's a rich Hollywood history of actors who have their persona on lock, and we love it, and they bring it, and that's what we expect to see. And it's cool when they do something different, but there's nothing un-Hollywood about this,
For sure. Yeah, you're right. There's a very long tradition there. Would he be your personal favorite as well?
Yeah. I think both put the mark there to win the ballot. Also, that's my personal favorite as well.
Yeah. I think if I were voting, I think I'd probably go with Ed Norton in this. I really liked his portrayal of Pete Seeger in A Complete Unknown. I thought it was like quite convincing, and just like really. I just really enjoyed it. I don't really have much more to say than that. Did you see The Complete Unknown?
You know what? I missed my opportunity to. I literally, this is annoying. I thought it was on Hulu this week, and I went to go watch it early this morning. I woke up early to watch it before this podcast, and I get onto Hulu, I put it up, and it's a 22-minute special. It's not the full movie.
Oh, that's very disappointing.
Frustrating. Yeah. So it's I want to see it very badly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we were talking about the other category. I think it's a really enjoyable movie. I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan, so it's kind of like, you downloaded like from my brain. It's that movie taught me that my prejudice against biopics of musicians is really just rooted in the fact that I'm not a fan of Elton John or Freddie Mercury in the same way that I am of Bob Dylan. So, there you go. You have to like the artist, I guess.
I'm just glad you said biopic and not biopic, which is psychotic to say.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't quite. Yeah, it's always been biopic for me. So, so actor in supporting role. I think Kieran Culkin's a pretty safe bet in that category. Maybe Guy Pearce sneaks in. I don't think so though. I think it's probably going to be Kieran Culkin. He's been practicing that acceptance speech for months, I think.
Nice.
All right. Actress in a supporting role. We've got Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for her 5 minutes of screen time in Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. What have you got here?
So, I wasn't like the hugest fan of the movie Wicked, but man, Ariana Grande blew my mind. I thought she was just magical and hysterical and effervescent in a way that you just want this type of role to be. And I think it could be a moment for her potentially. I hope it is.
I think so. This one's interesting because I think this was the most solid category for Amelia Perez for a very long time. I think Zoe Saldana has been the favorite for a long time. But Amelia Perez has been kind of suffering because of the controversy around Carla Sofia Gascon's old tweets and just sort of a general, I think, kind of distaste among the public for the film. It just hasn't caught on. So I feel like Zoe Saldana is maybe a little weaker now than she was 2 or 3 months ago. I still think she's the favorite, but I think you're right that Ariana Grande is probably running second in this category, and I would not be shocked to see her win. That to me would be a sign of a complete Amelia Perez collapse if Ariana Grande wins this award.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. This is a tough category because I think these movies are none of these performances are super showy, really, maybe besides Monica Barbaro where she's doing a very, very good Joan Baez impression throughout the entire film. I gotta say, I didn't love any of these performances. I feel like there's probably better.
Better, I mean, there's standout moments in both The Brutalist and Conclave where these women do a kick butt job of delivering their lines, right?
Yep.
There's like, wow, that line was delivered exceptionally well. Does that one line of exceptionally delivered dialogue, or even like good facial expression acting, equal a win as a supporting actress? It's hard to say, you know?
Yeah. It's just some years you just have like a you don't have like the you just don't have like the biggest pool to pick from, and you get some like kind of um strange options, in a like when I saw Conclave, I thought I thought Isabella Rossellini might snag a nomination, but like it's such a small
Right.
role. Very, very tough. Okay, let's go right to actress in a leading role. So actress in a leading role, we've got Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore in The Substance, and Fernanda Torres and I'm Still Here. I think this one's like pretty close between Mikey Madison and Demi Moore. They kind of have like split the precursor awards. They've both had like big wins. My personal take is I think Demi Moore's still in the lead. I think she's going to win. Again, like wouldn't be shocked to see Mikey Madison win. That would be a sign of like real strength for Honora, and probably indicate that Honora's going to win other awards. But I think Demi Moore's probably got it. What do you think, Kyle?
I have not seen either of these films, unfortunately, but like I think just from listening to the podcast and seeing the buzz, that Demi Moore is like probably a safe check mark for a hopeful ballot win for your family or watch party that night.
Yeah, I think that the conventional wisdom is that she kind of like locked it up during the Golden Globes when she won and gave like a speech that kind of went viral and was she's kind of seen, I think, this year as that's like the career win, someone who like hasn't won an Academy Award, hasn't even been nominated for an Academy Award during a long career where she's made like many great movies and had some like ups and downs like career wise. But I think this is an award that kind of like recognizes her many contributions over the course of time. And also like I have seen The Substance. I love The Substance. I think it's one of the top 3 movies of last year. Personally, just a favorite of mine. And like the performance is great. Like it's a very physical, demanding performance. She's fantastic in it. She's perfectly cast. So yeah, I think that she's likely to win, and also I think is deserving. And of these 5 women, I think she's who I would pick. If I had a vote, which I do not yet, unfortunately, for the Academy Awards. Is there someone that you would pick either from the nominated actresses or from a film that isn't in the running, that a performance by an actress that you think is worthy?
I and we can talk about this a little bit more, but I really enjoyed all the performances in Civil War this year. And I think Kristen Dunst like was pretty cool, and like I loved her character and the way she kind of carried herself. So just like a standout performance for me.
Yeah, Civil War is another one of those movies. Kind of came out like around the same time as Dune Part 2, and it was also sort of like kind of forgotten.
It felt buzzy.
Yeah, no, like I think that like in another year, like that's a movie with the right campaign that could have gotten a bunch of nominations, and it did not, unfortunately. I really like Civil War quite a bit. All right, actor in a leading role, I think, is where we're heading next. Another pretty competitive category. We've got Adrian Brody in The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Ray Fiennes in Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. Who do you got in actor, Kyle?
Man, this seems like a tight race. This seems like a tight one.
Who do you think is competing in Best Actor?
Again, like I've seen 3 of these 5 movies. but I was blown away by Coleman Domingo's performance in Sing Sing. He was amazing, and probably could, in any other year, would easily deserve to win. But I think that the race is likely going to be between Ralph Fiennes and Adrian Brody. But like, again, like maybe Timothy Chalamet pulls it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the sense I have is that it's really between Adrian Brody and Timothy Chalamet. At this point, I feel like the momentum for Ray Fiennes kind of died off when Conclave didn't kind of get a lot of like the critics awards that maybe people were expecting early in the cycle. And there was just so much buzz around that Chalamet performance. I've got Adrian Brody winning here. I think that he's probably the favorite at the moment. If I had to pick one of these, though, I think I probably would pick Ray Fiennes. Like if I had a vote, I thought he was great in Conclave, and I think like kind of similar to Demi Moore, he's never won an Academy Award. He's deserving, I think, of that sort of like looking back at the scope of your work type Oscar. And I'm not always a fan of that style of like giving out an award, but when the performance is good, like it is in Conclave, I think it makes sense. I think there'd be a sort of like poetry to him winning for Conclave. So
I'm saving my Conclave hot take for our Best Picture conversation.
Okay,
let's just put it that way.
Okay,
but I think Adrian Brody definitely is a safe bet. What did you feel about his accent portrayal, his accent work?
I thought, I mean, I thought it was fine. There's some controversy about the use of AI in The Brutalist to make his Hungarian like perfect and feel more authentic, which of course it's AI generated, so it's like the opposite of authentic in reality. The process that they use is like very common and used in a lot of movies, including other movies that are nominated for Academy Awards this year. I think that Adrian Brody is a really good actor, and he's like capable of doing an accent, and the use of AI like does not personally bother me, and it wouldn't detract from my like calculus if I like had a vote here. What are your thoughts?
I thought he did a great job, and I again, like if it convinces you and melts you into the reality the film's trying to bring you into, I applauded. I guess I was pretty convinced. I was like, this is legit. This sounds like really good.
Yeah. I mean, it's a process that's used in a lot of movies, and people just don't even realize it. And it's like it's one of those things that's like we call it AI, but it's really like more just like an audio editing. It's more common than people think. And I think that like if we're gonna get all flustered about this use of AI, like we got a long road ahead of it, because like it's going to be used in so many more kind of like invasive ways in the movie industry going forward. Like this is small potatoes in terms of like how AI is used, and it's like it's pretty subtle in The Brutal. Like it's used in voiceovers, so like he's not even appearing on screen when the when this AI audio tool is used. So yeah, it doesn't bother me one bit. Can I tell you one of my favorite takes during the Oscar kind of like awards discussion related to this category is podcaster Yossi Solek from the podcast Bandsplain was discussing the Timothy Chalamet nomination, and the conventional wisdom is that like he's a favorite because he learned to play guitar and he learned to sing, and her take is men have been doing this to impress romantic partners for many years. I'm not impressed. Anyone can do that, and I think there's something to that. Lots of people learn to play guitar. Radiohead has a song, anyone can play guitar. So
that's too funny. And again, the irony of it all is, again, a year ago we were like, man, Timothy Chalamet in Dune 2, what an amazing opportunity, or performance, and that's not even part of the conversation.
He's in a Safdie Brothers movie that comes out on Christmas Day this year. That's already being kind of pegged as like a potential, Oscar film. It's a ping pong movie.
Okay, I'm into that.
A24 film. Lots of buzz already. So I think we'll see a lot of Timothy Chalamet at the Academy Awards over the course of the next several decades. It seems like he's pretty like, cemented as a, he's a movie star, like, so we're gonna see him, make the rounds many, many times over. I think he's gonna come up just short this year, but that's okay. All right, let's go to directing. So we've got Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, and then the substance director. Man, her name escapes me. I'm doing this from memory because the sheet I'm looking at does not have the name.
That you've done this from memory so far.
Yeah, and then the substance is that last name. Hang on, I'm going to look up her name real quick because she deserves to be mentioned by name. Substance director is Coralie Fargiat. I'm not pronouncing that correctly. A French filmmaker, very talented filmmaker who made The Substance. So, what are your thoughts on this category, Kyle?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because there was some directors that we kind of know that did not make the cut this year. I feel like for my ballot, trying to get that win, I'll probably put The Brutalist down just to kind of see if I can ride that wave to a win on this category.
Yeah, I think it's probably between Brady Corbet and Sean Baker. I've got Sean Baker by a nose just because of the precursor awards, that seem to be tilting Nora's way. But Brady Corbet would not surprise me. If he won for The Brutalist, like so many of these races come down to coin flips between the favorites, which is kind of exciting because I feel like there have been several Oscar years now in a row where like the winners have really been preordained. And we might look back on this year and think like, oh, well, it was Anora all the way, or it was The Brutalist all the way. But at this moment, it still feels like it's like relatively close. But yeah, I've got Sean Baker here for director.
Cool.
Do you have a preference here in terms of?
Not majorly. No, I don't know that I do. I think that not really. No.
Okay, fair enough. Preference. I would love to see Sean Baker win. Like, I think Sean Baker is like a true kind of like, independent, like very gritty sort of like has really like pulled himself up by the bootstraps, kind of like American indie filmmaker.
Yeah.
So it would be a great story for him to win Best Director at the Academy Awards. So like I'm definitely like rooting for him.
Cool.
Be an exciting moment.
I thought for sure this would be Denis Villeneuve's year, but that's just not how it worked out.
Yep, agreed. All right, the big one, Best Picture. The nominees: Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, a courtesy nomination for Best Picture, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. All right, who's going to take it home?
All right, so here I'm going to just finally deliver the hot take I've been saving up this whole time. Of all the movies I've seen this year, I can easily say that there's been an aspect of each of them that I was like, I wish they would have done this little thing different, except one. There's one movie where I didn't have any sort of like critique walking out of the theater, and that was actually Conclave. Of all these films, Conclave does not have a part of it that you're just like, well, they could have done this or they should have done this. It's just like an enjoyable, solid, like great performance, great cinematography, great music, just a solid thing that you're just like, man, that was a great time in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
What if there's just this place where they kind of, the way they do this ranked choice voting this nowadays, it could just be that this might be the vehicle that kind of scoots its way to the top, particularly with how the 10 nominees for the Oscars as opposed to other, award shows works. That's something that I'm clocking right now.
Yeah, so I think you're picking Conclave to win?
Okay, so this is where it comes down. It's like, what do you want versus what do you predict? It's hard. I think that the momentum for my brain is for The Brutalist. I guess, Conclave to actually take it because I think it has the right to. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So I think it does. I mean, I get it because I also really like Conclave, and I think that like um, it would be fun to see Conclave win because to me that movie represents sort of like a throwback to the movies I grew up watching. Just like good, solid dramas kind of oriented towards adults, that I was gonna say like originals, right? It is an adapted from a novel, but like I think you get my meaning. It's like
Sure.
It's not like comic book IP or
right.
So yeah, a Conclave win would be really fun, and it would be also, I think, an interesting. People would be really curious about ballots. I think if Conclave won, because it would be, I think, probably a result of like the ranked choice voting. It would have to be like number 2 on a lot of ballots, on a lot of Anora and Brutalist ballots, probably.
Right.
So I mean, I think it's a possibility. I do think that Anora has a lot of momentum just because of the precursor awards, and like it seems to have like kind of gone from the race was like really like much more up in the air like 3 weeks ago than it is at the moment we're recording. Like now it seems like if any movie has like solidified its place, it's Anora, but I think there's still openings here and there. Like a Brutalist win would not shock me. A Conclave win would not shock me because of the ranked choice voting and the way that works. And also Conclave won the BAFTA award, which there's overlap in those voting bodies, and also that award was kind of unexpected. So there might be there might be some like late momentum for Conclave. We shall see. I really loved Anora. Anora was I think I called it my number 1 movie of the year.
Oh, cool.
But honestly, like between Anora and The Substance, it really kind of like goes back and forth. Like it's hard to say for sure like what I like really like the most. But I would be thrilled if Anora wins for the same reason I'd be thrilled if Sean Baker wins Best Director. It's like a true kind of like indie success story. I think Anora is really like it's about like it's real people, like it reflects sort of like the way we live now. I always kind of interested in movies that kind of like describe like the current state of things, and like how we how we view culture and how we live. So like to me Anora is that movie this year. And I have a gut feeling it's going to win, but like I said, it could go in a number of different ways because of like the weird kind of like ranked choice voting and like the fact that there are 10 nominees in this category in this category alone. So
well, it'll be fun. It'll be an interesting night for our family always gets really into it. We have our kids all vote, even when they haven't seen everything. We usually watch all like the previews with them and stuff, and before and it'll be interesting to see who comes away with the trophy this year.
Yeah, this will be. I think this will be a fun Academy Awards because there is so much like uncertainty, at least relative to previous years. Sure. Conan O'Brien is hosting. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a big Conan O'Brien fan. I think he'll do a nice job. I wanted to talk, Kyle, a little bit about movies that weren't nominated that you kind of like, wish you had, maybe been like recognized by the Academy a little bit more. You already mentioned Civil War and Kirsten Dunst's performance in that film. Anything else like come to mind immediately?
I think that was the one I definitely wanted to mention at the top when you and I were kind of prepping for this call and we talked about things that didn't get any sort of nods. I thought Civil War was just a really interesting movie, and again, like I walked out of there with a lot of thoughts and thought about that movie for weeks, if not months afterward, in terms of just I think there's very few films where the whole mechanism of that film was anchoring around these black and white still images that were being taken along the way. And what's shocking about that movie is like each of those still images were incredible pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So to think that this movie was built around taking amazing still photography and then building stories that would lead to each of those images, building like a script and sequences that would enable that image to be an anchoring moment is just a really cool filmmaking tactic. I mean, it doesn't have to be that even that subject matter. It could have been any story about a photographer on a journey, but like making these key moments be these stills that were just like, wow, that is actually like a legitimately amazing picture is pretty cool. I think that's just a cool vehicle for storytelling that I would love to see more of that in some way, shape, or form. So that was like the one movie that I was like, I wish this got some sort of recognition.
Yeah. It's really good. It kind of like clicked for me the second time I saw it. I saw it in the movie theater and was impressed. But when I watched it at home a few months later, once it was streaming, I developed I think a new appreciation for it. I was able to kind of just like zone in on it a little bit more. I'm a big Alex Garland fan. I think, he's, always not always like successful in his in the movies he makes, but always really interesting and always has like a very just a really unique perspective. And also I would the way he stages action scenes in this movie is just incredible. He's never made a movie with this sort of um, with these sorts of like big set pieces, like big action set pieces. And his next movie is also a war movie, which looks to have like similar, kind of like big action set pieces. I'm very curious about that. So yeah, Civil War is a good call out for a movie that got a little bit snubbed, I think, in award season.
Can I want to hear what yours is, but I just want to do one more kind of quick mention. It's like I'm a huge documentary fan, and there's some great ones this year. And I always wanted to shout out Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat is an amazing documentary film. It's like checks all the boxes about like why you want to see a good doc. Mm-hmm. It is inspiring, entertaining, emotional. It like really like educates you on something that I just did not have the background on. In fact, multiple things I didn't have the real background on in terms of like this political upheaval in Africa, as well as like the music scene that was going on in the US at the same time and how those were interrelated. It is shockingly potent in terms of it being a great movie and a great doc. So
yeah. It's on my list. I haven't seen it. Everyone seems to love it. It's been recommended to me by people I trust, including you, many times. So I'm looking forward to seeing that at some point as I fill in the blind spots here. I'm looking at my Letterboxd list of my favorite movies from 2024. Just kind of like refresh my memory here. So a couple things jump out at me. Challengers is a movie I really loved, again, from earlier this spring, which was or last spring, I suppose now, which sort of got like lost in the shuffle, like pretty like well regarded critically, and like actually like did pretty good business too. I would have thought maybe there'd be like a little bit more Academy recognition for Challengers. Seems to be finding its audience on streaming, which is good. But no score nomination for Challengers, which is odd. It's a Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross score, and it really is like central to the movie. Like it's this like techno kind of like house music score, and it's like very it provides this like accent to the movie that's incredibly important. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I really like Challengers a lot. Another movie that I think I've talked about either on this podcast or elsewhere. I think Kat and I discussed it when we did our favorite movies of 2024 is A Different Man, with a really great Sebastian Stan performance. Sebastian Stan is nominated this year as for his role in The Apprentice. He plays Donald Trump in The Apprentice. Yeah. I haven't seen The Apprentice. I will at some point. But I can tell you that his performance in A Different Man is just like sensational. Like it's so good. So the fact that he was in another movie that the Academy deemed an even better performance potentially is just like good sign for him. I'm a really big fan of A Different Man. I think that's a movie that we'll be like talking about and discussing for a very long time. Like it's cool. It's excellent. Have you had a chance to see that one yet?
I haven't. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's really good. Streaming on Max currently. My highest recommendation.
Cool.
It's excellent.
Great.
Well, I think we did it, Kyle. I think we talked about the major categories.
We wore the same watch.
Wore the same watch. I think this was a successful Oscar preview episode.
Thanks.
I'm really looking forward to this Academy Awards telecast. Like I said, I think it'll be entertaining. I think there's some genuine uncertainty, which always makes it more fun to watch. So thank you so much for joining me, Kyle, and going through all of it
here
with me. Yeah, the Academy Awards are fun. We'll always do this podcast one way or another. It's an important tradition, I think.
I agree.
Kind of like to put our worst guesses out in public so people can hold us accountable. So, thank you, Kyle, for coming on the show, and thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. We've got a bunch of time on screen episodes kind of like in the works, so we're gonna get going on those. So really fun episodes, and some themed episodes as well, and themed series coming soon. So
cool.
Hope you'll stay tuned for that, and we will see you next time on Time on Screen and the Warner Wound podcast and Changing Gears. You know where to keep it for your favorite watch adjacent podcasts. So we'll see you next time. Until then, take care.
Bye.